Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the B2B Pipeline Pioneers Show with your favorite guest host, me, Ariana Shannon, Brand Marketing Director here at SalesIntel, where we believe that building pipeline is a team sport. And everyone, it truly is. This show is dedicated to helping teams build those winning pipelines because it takes everyone coming together. It's not just marketing running their part and sales running their part, or success or product or wherever you are in the organization. It's everyone working together towards the common goal and using strategies that actually are helping them to get where they want to go. So with that today, I'm joined by Janice, founder of Scale Your Sales. Janice, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to this.
No, of course. I'm so glad that you were able to make the time. Let's go ahead and kick things off with our opening question, which is give us 60 seconds on how your role contributes to building or maintaining pipeline at Scale Your Sales.
I'm being the founder of the organization. My background's in sales, so I am the person that develops all the leads. I do speaking engagements, training, consultancy. I'm on social media, so it's Janice B Gordon, and posting a lot of thought leadership. So people buy you first. So for the listeners here, whether you're CEO of your organization, whether you're an individual contributor, they buy you first. So it's really putting yourself out there. They need to know you before they actually know you in order to trust you. So I'm the one that, if I take my eye off the ball, then that directly affects my pipeline. So I need to be on it all the time. And I help my customers as well really understand why it's important to have an elite sales team. And I call them an elite sales team because the right people in the right positions, the right seats, really focus. And I use a data informed sales specific process to make sure we've got the right people on the right team. And from there, we can leverage that to make sure that we provide customer-centric sales, meaning that it's actually buyer-centric, it's customer-centric in everything we do in the decision makers. And that's what I help my clients with, really drive excellence in sales by being customer-centric.
No, and that's such an important part because everyone always talks about how can we make the sales cycle more efficient? How can we make this better? But it's always from the perspective of the seller. And I love now this turn, especially with what you're saying, Janice, of it's for your customer, it's for your prospect. It should be more convenient for them if we're really looking at it this way. So I love that concept there. Let's go ahead and move on then.
And also, like, even the title for this as well, pipeline, is very looking internally. And so when we're looking at pipeline and measuring, we're actually forgetting who's on the other end of that. So I think in sales, we need to start to look at the language we use, because words have power. And the way that we look at, our targets or our prospects and pipeline, all of these words make us look internally, but also doesn't really give us a holistic view of what we're trying to achieve.
No, absolutely. You have to look at all of the aspects of the pipeline. And I love now where you're taking this at the external focus. Is that something that you had learned from last year? Because I know last year was a big challenge for a lot of organizations. Give the economics, people no longer buying on the sizzle, whatever the situation was for the company itself, it was a large struggle. So what did you learn in 2023? And sorry, let me just rephrase that, get clearer on your question, Janice. What was your biggest challenge in 2023, and what did you learn from it?
I think my biggest challenge is not get diverted and off track. What you're doing is right. It's just that the sales cycle may have got longer. The behaviors of your customers may have changed. Like, the thing is, what you're doing may be correct or may need little adjustments, but what is your pivot point? Again, are you focused internally on what you're doing, or actually are you looking externally and thinking, okay, what are my key customers are doing, what are they actually wanting? So, and that's what I do all the time. I'm always trying to get the organizations that I work with to look 180 degrees at their operation from the outside in. And so it's really, okay, Janice, I need to stay focused on doing that with my organization as well, really understanding where my key customers are moving, having more conversations with them. So yes, it was challenging. It was only challenging because so many things were moving at the same time. But that's the world we live in now. That is just the world we live in. And I think the more you can remain focused on staying in your lane and really understanding what that is and what's relevant to your key customers and how you deliver that, and really kind of getting lots of feedback from them. So, the challenge was, oh, hang on a moment, things are changing. But actually, the challenge was just stick with it. It may take a bit longer. You may need to divert a little bit, but remain agile and adapt and agile and adaptable to that constantly moving micro and macro situation.
So really a message in, don't let the shiny new tactic take your focus. If something is actually working, just improve it. If something is not working, then obviously address that, but stay focused on what is actually helping you build pipeline and basically stay the course, is what I heard you say there, Janice.
Absolutely. I was going into clients and saying, okay, like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's look at where we are now and look at, what has worked and how we can test it and use that to benchmark what is working in our organization, so that we know that we can just move, adapt, throw out just the little pieces that are not working, but not everything. That's what we tend to do, is panic in situations when everything's changing. But you actually need to find the things that aren't changing, that are working. Absolutely.
Awesome. So then is that something that you're seeing as a trend into 2024 as you start to look forward and see, okay, what worked for us last year? What is something that we could start doing? So is that something you're continuing to focus on, or is there a new experiment that you'd like to share with us?
I think it's always an opportunity when there is challenge and change. There's opportunities in that change, and it's looking for what it is. So it's actually, again, from 2023, but 2024 is really zeroing it in on what is working really well and actually scaling that bit up. So, I've found a few opportunities of things that I'm delving into and spending a lot more time in than others. So one area that I work with is sales efficiency, and really looking at how productive we can be as an organization. I go out at speaking engagements and I talk a lot about the evidence that our sales operation, our go-to-market teams are going to be a lot smaller going forward. So if we know that, how are we going to make sure that we've got the best people in the right seats, in the right positions, and supporting them with the right kind of culture? And that is really kind of 101 for all sales operations, looking at that to make sure they're as efficient as possible with the right people in the right seats. So I'm focusing in at the moment, helping organizations to sales operations to actually do that, because once you've got that in place, you can leverage the customer-centric strategies, because you can do so much more working with a lot less. So that's what I'm talking a lot about now. And certainly, I'm a small organization, so it's making sure that we're working more efficiently as well.
Yeah, it's also ironic sometimes in those agency situations of, you're telling your client something, but you also need to make sure that you are drinking your own champagne and really making that work for yourself. So good, good. A lot of good insights there. But I think now we're ready to move into everyone's favorite game, the 100 pennies exercise. Janice, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go for it.
Awesome. Let me get my screen share up here. All right, Janice. So here are the buckets that you could put some of your resources or pennies into. You've got 100 pennies to spend. You can spend them in 10-cent increments. And the more pennies you have in one area shows that you're putting more weight, more time, more money, more effort into that particular channel. So, Janice, I have to ask you, where are you spending your pennies?
All right. So shall I spend them and explain why, or shall I explain why while I'm spending?
Up to you. A little context is great, but some people just dive right for it. So
Right.
whatever you
Okay.
like to do.
Okay, so I think the first area where I'd put the bulk of my pennies would be in customer-led growth. I talk about customer centricity, so that might not be a surprise to you. I put four of those in there. And the reason for that is that customers are your everything. They're your guidelines. For many years, I moved from sales and worked in customer experience. And oh my God, it completely blew my mind as to customers are your best innovators and creators. And especially now we talked about the micro and macro changes. When everything's moving, you've got to hang on tight to your key customers. So I think that is more appropriate now than ever. The closer you remain to your key customers, the better you are to fulfill their needs and also take a larger share of your customers' spend. So I would certainly stay close to my customers. And that plays into what we talk a lot about in Scale Your Sales, retention of customers. They're your biggest growth mark. Best referrals come from that. They're your sales team. They're your borrowed sales team. So then I would put two in, where would I put the community? Community, I think. Community-led growth. The reason for that is I think community is everything in 2024 going forward. And your entire sales can come from driving community-led initiatives and engagement. But there's a lot of work to do around really understanding your community and developing a relationship and building your community. But that is, I think, a missed opportunity for a lot of organizations. So what, I've got four left. Okay, I would probably put one in, where would I go next? I think in market-led initiatives. The reason for that is market-led growth. To do what I do, you've got to understand your customers really well. You've got to invest in marketing and understanding, prioritizing your customer insights and making sure that you're using technology, but not letting go of the personalization of the engagement, building the relationship. So really focus your marketing-led initiatives. If you get that right, then it's almost like build it and they will come. Customer satisfaction rise. They drive in advocacy, which leads into customer-led growth and also community-led growth. So I'd put one there. I'd put one in strategic partnerships. Scale Your Sales is very much built on building key customer relationships into long-term partnerships. Partnerships are so important. Again, the closer you are to your customers, but you have a defined strategy to build them into partners. So they also have skin in the game with you. They grow, you grow, and you have a really strong partnership relationship. I've got two left. I put two into founder-led, and I'm thinking of thought leadership here. And I haven't put any into branding because I actually think founder-led growth does that. It's the best way of building brand visibility and credibility and fostering organic growth. Now, in early stage growth companies, this is absolutely critical. And you've got some founders that don't like to put themselves forward. It's an absolute must based on what I said before, people buy you first. And for latter growth companies, I'd say in terms of stimulating pipeline, I'd probably move one of those two back into partnership. When you've already got the credibility and established yourself, you really need to delve in deeper into having those long-term strategic partnerships. So I think that's me spent out now, isn't it?
No, you've got all of your pennies allocated here. And I loved where you also took this into a future component, Janice, of, okay, I'm putting two in founder now, but that's because of where I'm at. If you're a larger organization and you already have the brand established, those should go into partnerships where you can then capitalize upon that brand recognition that you have. So I love your call out there, but let's do a quick recap. You've got 4 in customer, 2 in community and 2 in founder, and then 1 in marketing and partner-led growth. So this is where, Janice, you've spent your pennies. Now let's see how this compares to our community. All right, so now on the screen, Janice, you can see the blue benchmark here. This is where we got all of our surveys back and all the leaders, surprise, surprise, we're putting a lot into sales. So in the blue, we see our industry components. When we update this, in the orange, you are going to see your bets here. So now that you can see this graph, what comes to mind? What's immediately your first thought?
I'm not surprised. We're talking about pipeline, we're talking about sales, and so I'm not surprised people put it in sales led for pipeline. And I just, sales for a long time have been laggards, and they're still laggards. I'm sorry, but they are. Like I do when I do speaking engagements, talk a lot about how the sales process is broken, and that's why the sales stack traditionally has been so big. It's like whack-a-mole. You're kind of like hitting these things, like trying to fill a leaky bucket. So I'm not surprised by that. And things are moving. This is why we've had quite turbulent times, and things are moving. So I'm sticking with my votes. I'm really happy with where I am. And I think that's where things are moving forward, and which is why I consult for sales organizations. Yeah, I'm happy with the results. I'm not surprised.
No, and that makes sense. But I also love even you as a sales background, running a sales agency is coming through the voice of, no, it's not all in sales. Like it's not all just about that. You allocated none of your 100 pennies into sales, and instead you put it into customers and then founder and community. So really capitalizing on what is it that your audience actually cares about? How do you engage them to be an authentic founder, or what are they saying in the community, and then how are you being present in that community? So it's a really great approach to this that is fun. I see a lot of guests on the show, and we've got some that are like, yes, sales all the way, put all of my pennies into sales. And then we have individuals like you that are like, no, like sales is important, but these other things inform what we do. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything I've said will give me sales. And it's almost like, do you go in saying, buy me, buy me, buy me? Or do you actually say, what would you like to buy? And that's the difference. What are you interested in? And then they're going to buy.
no, absolutely. It's just asking that question. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming, for sharing your expertise on where you're allocating your pennies. And I can't wait to see where your bets pan out this year, Janice. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Absolutely love the game. It really makes you think. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you very much, Ariana.